Welcome, dear viewers, to a new episode of Dialogue Horizon. In this episode, we will cover two very important and recent issues which started causing some serious development and impediments to the progress of the country to a full-fledged democratic rule. These two events or phenomena, one is the phenomena of the terrorism in Sudan. All people of Sudan, they heard of terrorist attacks in different parts of the world. But in Sudan, we started having this phenomena as a fact. It happened in south of Khartoum 2-3 times in two consecutive weeks, last week and the week before that, which started becoming very alarming to the country and alarming to the international community. The other issue is the issue of the crisis in the East. It started long time ago, not very long, but almost 1 year ago, or actually immediately after the ratification and signing of the agreement of Juba in October 2020. This also is posing a threat to the continuation, the safe landing of the transitional period to a full democratic regime. Both events definitely they have some repercussions and some after effects or side effects on the economy of the country. They started the economy of the country started to become on the right track. Hopefully, if we continue on this track, it will solve the problem. So that's why we are hosting in this episode. I'm happy to host two of our specialized persons in both fields. First, I have to my right, I have Professor Abdullah Manzoul. He is the Dean, Faculty of Scientific Research in University of Khartoum. Previously, he was the director of the Peace Research Institute in University of Khartoum. He's a professor. He's also having some good relations with different international institutions and organizations in the NGOs or in the official of the United Nations. So, and also he was right in the middle of the start of the negotiations, of the peace negotiations, and he was supposed to be at that time maybe the top of this commission. But anyhow, he is right in the middle of this peace process, and the East is the process of peace. And, also we have our friend Dr. Yasser Al-Abed. Yasser Al-Abed is an economist, and he will also enlighten the viewers on the effects of those events, the blocking of the lifeline, Khartoum, Port Sudan, and the terrorism appearance in Sudan. This their effect on the economy of the country and on the expected growth in the economy. Okay, let us start by Professor Manzoul Abdullah Manzoul. Professor Manzoul Abdullah Manzoul, of course you are alarmed. You are a man of peace. When you hear something about terrorism, blowing and fighting right in the middle in Khartoum, is something to you, especially you as a scholar in the peace processes. What does this mean to you, and why do you think this happened at this time?
Thank you very much, Omar. Yes, this is quite an alarming development, and I think every Sudanese should be concerned with this. This is the first time that the law-informed authorities confront a terrorist group, and as you said at the beginning of your talk, that this happened in 2 consecutive weeks in Jabra, one of the neighborhoods in the south part of Khartoum. And this was quite unexpected, although given the change that happened in the country, some people have expected that there are indeed some cells that are in the country, and I think a year ago or so there were some reports to the effect that some Boko Haram groups enter the country through the western borders. Although this is, stay to be unconfirmed reports. But what happened, as I said, is quite serious, is quite alarming, and there is still little that's known about who these groups are. Although we saw some news in the media that some of these people are from Egypt.
From Egypt, yeah.
Egyptians, or at least many of them are Egyptians. And these kind of incidents have implications on the country because it scares off potential investors. It will send signals or messages that the country is not safe, and it will also indicate clearly that the government has a lot to do. And of course, the most important part of this is that there is a need to know whether there are still some other pockets or not. And I think my feeling is that definitely there are other pockets which needs to be weeded out, which means that the law enforcement agents need to still work on this. And the most important part of all this is that the citizens should really play a role in this. And in my account in Facebook, I wrote that citizens should be careful about renting out their property, their flats, to foreigners before making sure that these foreigners are staying in the country legally. And even when they know that these foreigners are staying legally, they have to consult the authorities, before
But Professor, I remember many people they saw, especially in Jebra, their neighbors, they say that these people were residing in this area for quite a long time. So it was purposely by the hostage regime. These are Egyptians coming because after being harassed and being by the Egyptian regime, most of them they came about say 10 years ago.
Yeah, that is.
One of the reasons that they came and they.
Absolutely, I'm going to get back to that point because to have a terrorist group, this is not something that just comes out of the blue.
Yes.
There are reasons, there are factors, and any terrorist group to have fruits in any place, it needs to have an incubation.
Yes,
sure. It has to have a conducive environment for that. Now, let us not forget the fact that there were terrorist incidents as far back as 1994. We all remember the Al-Khulayfi group. What happened in the Jarrafah?
Two important incidents, yes.
Of course. So we already have examples, we have a background on this. But the point is that, or at least this is how I look at it, is that the former regime provided some sort of an incubation.
Okay.
Because the orientation, the ideology itself at the time was conducive to the propagation of this kind of mentality or ideology. If you say publicly in the media, فَلْتُرَقْ كُلَّ الدِّمَاء, that is a clear indication that you condone in a way or another this type of ideology.
Oh, sure. Yeah. That's good. Okay, Dr. Yasser Abed, now having heard Professor Manzoul talking about the cause and the roots of the insurgency or of this story, this terrorist attack, some people, till this moment, these groups, they did not start or they did not go into any action of blowing a certain place or certain people. They were discovered that they were attacked. They were defending themselves. They did not start any attack in Jebra or in whatever another professor said, maybe in other places like east of Khartoum. But the fact that they did not start any attack till this moment.
Yeah.
But people are afraid that. Do you think that, before we ask you about the implications and what will happen to the economy when in a country it's full of terrorists? So people are afraid, or they think that they might start doing some attacks. They attack before attacking them. They are suiciders. After all, they are suiciders. They care less about their lives. So instead of dying like what happened in Jebra, people are afraid that these people might start some attacks before get killed. As long as they are, in all cases, they are killed. In all cases. That's why something, I think, I will ask you this question because there is something weird about this operation. Something to me, anyhow, let us go to, so where is do you expect that this will start a new attack, or they will go for attacking before defending? The second is, what is the effect on the economy and the expected flow of investors to the country?
Thank you very much, Mr. Janab Haraz, and my regards to all the people that are behind the camera. I think so. We know that the tourism is moving through the cells and moving around the world, and most of the security forces, they're following these activities of the tourists so much, and there is exchange between the countries around the world. And as we know, starting from USA and the rest of European countries, most of them they are very sensitive with this type of activities. Very sensitive, because there is a lot of impacts, negative impacts around the countries, or inside the country internally. What happened in Sudan, I think so. This is maybe it is not going to be the last, and it's not the first, and not going to be the last. Still, Sudan is one of the targets of the tourist industry and tourist groups, because of the location of Sudan. So Sudan location is a very sensitive location, and in a vital field of the neighboring countries, especially in African Horn and East African, where these groups are moving so much in the East Africa and West of Africa, as we know, because of the borders there, opening borders. And Sudan is one of these countries which is really having so much problem, and beside also the illegal immigration and whatever. So internally, what happened last week in Jebra and whatever, it is still there. These groups where they were organizing themselves now to do something. It looks like they want to do something very big, and the way it's been moving, and they came as a group with different countries from east and from neighboring countries. That's one of the biggest dangerous things for the people at this time, and I think so. We need more efforts from our army force and police force and security force and rapid force. Maybe all of them, they have to set at least a program for how to fight this type of because the impacts, as you mentioned, in economic, is going to have a lot of bad impacts for the economy and for the investors itself, because the investors, they can't come in where there is conflicts, where there is problems. So it's even the tribe of conflict, or like this type of tourist problems. It is one of the biggest issues which can leave the investors to keep away from Sudan, because they are looking for chances. Sudan is one of the good areas for chances for Sudan is land of opportunities in investment. Sudan has a lot of potential, but they can't come at this time because there is so much conflict problems in the east and west, and these tribal problems. This is why we have to be careful on that. We have to fight this issue, and as we know, investors from long time after the revolution, we didn't see any records, any investors or any projects or whatever. Only we are waiting for finance from this institution. The institution can come with finance and whatever. But especially we are looking for the companies from overseas, from Europe, from whatever. And at this time they can't come while there is conflict, there is a problem, there is we are fighting tourism in front of the world now, and of the world now is we have seen even it reduced the tourist issue and the tourist problems and the sales. Now it's starting in Sudan, and they're looking for areas in Sudan because especially these groups, they can't go in where there is stability and there is a good security. They will go where there is a problem of securities. They go where the place where they go can get the space of that highway. They can go where they can penetrate on the society, they can penetrate in the people. They can stay with people normally until they do their what they want to do.
Okay, thank you, Professor Manzoor, Abdullah Manzoor. Actually, if you remember, Sudan's name after the revolution was lifted from the list of countries sponsoring terrorism.
Right.
This means that Sudan's name was included in this list because it was sponsoring terrorism, which means one of the sponsorship is to give safe haven to terrorist group, which means that these people are inherited from the hostage regime because they, as I told you, for 10 years. So what do you expect the international community, or at least America, which put Sudan's name in the list of sponsored terrorism? Now Sudan is trying to combat terrorism. Yeah. Do you think they would give a helping hand in this direction?
Yeah, absolutely. I think your point was quite right. One of the reasons why Sudan was on the list was that the government, even if it wasn't actively supporting terrorism, it was condoning terrorism. And let us not forget the fact that Osama bin Laden was living in this country.
For
yes,
years.
At some point the government was forced to kick him out, but he lived here for years. And also, let's not forget the fact that one of the issues that were bringing problems between Sudan and Egypt was Egypt's accusation to Sudan that it provides safe haven to its opponent from the Muslim Brothers, the Egyptians. Whether that is true or not, that is one of the issues. So the difference is that while the former regime was a regime that was condoning extremist groups, this government is not. And so what it needs is the support from the international community. Sharing of information, sharing of intelligence, and aiding the government in combating terrorism. I think this is what Sudan needs. Here, I must say that in dealing with these kind of problems, you have different approaches. You have preventive measures, and you have measures that are taken after an incident takes place. With regard to the former regime, it wasn't doing anything in the preventive front. What it was doing was the so-called de-radicalization programs. You know, we all know that some of our kids went to ISIS in Iraq, in Syria. Some were killed, some were brought back. What the government did with those who were brought back was a process, the so-called al-hiwar al-fikri, de-radicalization. You know, they bring these kids, or those who were radicalized, they bring a religious person or persons to sit with them, to discuss with them, to convince them, so that they get back from those extremist ideas. For, you know, this might be a good idea, it might be a successful idea, but its results are dubious.
Dubious.
Because there are cases that went back. You know, there are those who were part of this so-called de-radicalization program, intellectual, you know, hiwar al-fikri, but then they ended back going back again to where they came from. Which means that you need, in addition to this, to engage in the so-called preventive measures, you know, so that you know, make it highly unlikely for people to be radicalized. Now, there's a lot that could be done here. There are security measures. There are measures that relate to the engaging in the media. There are measures that relate to trying to weed out extremist ideologies from the society by, doing different things. And I think this is what the government needs to do. Of course, on top of that, it also needs, as I said, the support from the international community through technical support, through sharing of information and intelligence.
And educating people.
Of course, educating people. Yeah.
So that no newcomers will dare to join such groups.
Absolutely.
If you have good communication with your people here,
Yeah.
especially the youth. The youth are most vulnerable to
That's right.
to go that path. But if they were well educated and they were taught by religious people that suicide, killing yourself is not allowed, is not something like this.
Yeah, and here there is also another point that I would like to add. What that in academia there are a lot of reports on the issue of violent extremism. There are different interpretations. Some academics or scholars say that one of the reasons why people, especially young people, get to extremism is poverty. They are poor, they don't have chances, they don't have any future. They get frustrated and they get into this kind of extremist groups. But the experience of Sudan actually goes into the opposite direction. All those who joined ISIS were from rich countries, from rich families.
People, yes. Rich, not poor, yes.
Absolutely, and this should give us a lot of food for thought. Why rich kids?
I'm from one of the universities. We don't want to name it.
Absolutely.
One of the recognized and most expensive universities.
That's
this
right.
means the education could have
That's right.
swayed them to.
So, and I think what this indicates is that the phenomena is quite complex. You cannot look at it from one angle or one perspective. You have to look at it in many different ways.
Different ways. Yes, that's good. Yeah. Dr. Yasser Abid. Okay. Some people also we want to round up this issue to finish this issue of the terrorists, but I will have another final question to Professor after because he is specialized on this issue. Some people they think that this has something to do with the start of the process of normalization of relation with Israel. And my question, the second is connected to this to Professor. The normalization, do you think this is one of the reasons? And is the normalization from the economic point of view? They say that Israel, they have well advanced, they have technology, good technology in agriculture.
Yeah.
So we want to be pragmatic, just that tell us about the effect of normalization of relation with Israel in the economy and its relation with the attacks of last week, terrorist attacks.
I think so. If we talk about the history of the terrorists in Sudan, the first part of the hostage regime is different than what we are talking about now regarding the normalization. Normalization before it was not there, and still there is a lot of problems of the. It was a lot of problems of tourism and attacks and whatever.
Yeah.
That is a long time ago, since 1980 something, 1988, that Al-Hakim problem, Al-Hakim when it's been killed here in Sudan. And the second after we have seen the attack of Shifa factory or whatever, and Sudan is under this list of terrorists and is country responsible of terrorism, and that is different completely. The issue it looks like so big because Bin Laden was here during that 1992, 93.
So you are saying that even before this, there was a terrorist
attack
in Sudan, but as Professor
Sudan has been accused and been put on that list of terrorists.
So you are ruling out the normalization with Israel
Yeah,
And
normalization it is one of the targets also. When we became with the issue of normalization, definitely this is put a lot of signal with tourist groups and whatever, because those they are against that type of relation in normalization whatever. And normalization now is I think one of the targets of it, and because Sudan now is going on this side of normalization with Israel and the rest of the world after it's been lifted the that from that list of tourists. And according to me, we have to put a lot of precautionary measures on that side of it. So our the political side and most of the decision makers and whatever, they have to be very careful on that. So normalization is not going to be easy like that. So they have to put so much, as I mentioned, so much precautionary measures and whatever. So at least to reduce any problems regarding these groups and the cells of Daesh and whatever, and Boko Haram and the rest of these movements. So we have to be very careful on that, and we have to look for. But normalization, I think, so is going to Sudan is going to pay a lot of valuable things regarding that if you are not going to be careful with these groups and this type of tourist industry, the tourist institutions. So they have many, and they have so many ways, and they have many ways to come to Sudan, and still they are here, and I think so. According to me, there may be another cells also here. Maybe it's not in Jabra, maybe in Jiref, in whatever. And you know, have this a lot of within organize our foreigners, these groups and whatever. So the foreigners, they stay in Sudan without any restrictions. This is very dangerous. In fact,
very dangerous.
If you go to any country, if you go to even our neighboring country, you can't find that type of loose security regarding this alliance or whatever, and those people of the neighboring country from different type of whole and different areas. So we have to be careful on that. We have to register all our foreigners here. We have to register all the people here. We have to be very careful with them. They have to have a records, and they have to have movements where they have moved from site. So you have to know them, and you have to have a history of them. So in the next future, maybe you will have good people from their side. Maybe you want to move them to cities inside, and the rest of them maybe they're going to work in long term of attacking working in sales and whatever. We have to look for ways, because this is one of the looseness side of our security. So we didn't care about this type of foreigners whatever. So we have to look for a way. We have to get away. We have to put a lot of precautions on that. We at least we register all of them. Most of them they have to register, and they have the records and files and all the history of them from starting coming through the borders or through the ports or through the airport. It is very important because something it became very serious now. It's not something just like before. We are expecting the investment. We are expecting the finance. We are expecting at least to develop our countries. We have become very behind to compare with our neighboring countries. So we have to jump from this area.
Yes, I think
that is square. That is very bad square.
To enhance your argument, yes, this is true and valid. Because last week, the police immigration department issued statistics saying that about 11 million illegal immigrants are inside Sudan from all borders of the country, east, south. By then, from the south, millions are coming now, the west and east. So they're estimating, which is 25% or more than the population of the country.
Yes, not less than that. That is very dangerous.
This is very, very serious.
You can't find a country like that in the world.
Never. Okay, that is good. So having heard these statistics and about this, I want to ask you a question about the timing. That some people, they say, that's why I said it's something weird. It has some connection, or at least it happened immediately after the failed coup attempt. The coup attempt followed immediately by this, bearing in mind, having in mind that these people in Jabra, some of their neighbors, I read that they were talking about these people that are living with them in peace for 10 years. And most of them are not, they are working, they are doing work. One is a dentist, I think they say one is the dentist, so another is the tile layer. How they are doing work for 10 years and they are neighboring. And these people, when they were attacked, they did not start anything or they did not plan. So the timing, can you tell us, yeah, some people they talk about something, this is something not clear.
Well, first of all, let me just commend the security forces that dealt with this problem and who actually, some of them lost their lives to protect us. And I think this is something that everybody should commend.
Okay.
And the second point is that to me, I'm not really worried about the foreigners that are killed or apprehended or arrested. My worry is to have these cells penetrating the Sudanese society and you get Sudanese who are recruited, because this would make it quite difficult for the authorities to deal with. So that is why I am more into having programs of prevention. You know, you don't wait until something happens and then you deal with it. Now, yes, like you, I also read a lot of comments, and there were some people who were skeptical about the timing. They say that why did this happen? You know, immediately after the failed attempt coup. This might be true, but let's not forget the fact that these people, even if they didn't attack, even if they didn't start, they had weapons and they killed the security forces.
Yes, yeah.
What were they doing with those weapons? You know, that means they're planning, they're plotting.
Yes.
So maybe some people are skeptical, but as far as I'm concerned, I see this as real. This is serious. This is genuine. And the very fact that these people had weapons and they exchanged fire with the security forces, they even killed some of the security forces, this is quite serious.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
We may have doubts about why.
Well, the timing, maybe just the timing, but the fact is that these people are terrorists.
Precisely. And I think that is the point here.
Yeah, and they are commending the, also we all commend the efforts of the security forces, and we condole the loss of life, the families of the victims who lost their lives in this battle, and I think this will make them continue further to follow this. And I hear that there in the east of Khartoum they started some surveillance or some work in the other areas, because these people, they selected areas like Jebra.
Yeah. No, I think there is this journalist. His name is Al-Hadi Muhammad Al-Amin. He is specialized in this type of reporting, and he alerted the authorities 1 year ago. He actually mentioned some specific areas in the capital, you know, where these terrorist groups might exist. And I think the authorities should take what he writes seriously, because he knows a lot about these groups.
That's good, yes. Anyhow, we also urge all people of the country, all people of Sudan, we urge them all to give any piece of information to the nearest security people. If just without making light, shedding light, you just go in secrecy and tell that you notice something. Please, people should be aware and should be helpful to the security forces by giving the information of what they see. Anything, whatever you believe it is something minor, just report it. This will definitely help the security people. Okay. Now we go to, we almost finished the issue of the terrorist attacks and the people. We'll go to the other problem, the other issue, which is it's serious, the growing in serious in Port Sudan. It started by Professor Manzoor, because you were following the Juba agreement. One, actually, the stealing of Tirik and his group started by just the track, the East track. They say those who signed this track, they are not representing us, and we still need more. And the government did not pay attention until he raised his feeling to the removal of the whole government and the civilians, and he blocked the lifeline. So just give us a brief idea about
Well,
the history of this
No, I
insurgence.
think you're right. We talked a lot about this. We have been following the Juba peace agreement, for the past couple of years, even before the agreement was signed. We talked about the tracks, and we said here time and time again that these tracks complicated the situation. They created problems that they could have been avoided. And yes, the Tariq and his group were calling for striking out the eastern track,
Yeah.
and they were unhappy about it, and everybody acknowledges that there was a problem. And then, for whatever reasons, the government did not really respond to these demands until things got very complicated. Things are now, getting out of hand. The main road that links Khartoum and Port Sudan is blocked at some areas. The only port of the country is literally paralyzed. This is affecting not only the country at large, but even the people in the east themselves, because they depend for their lives on the port. There is a third dimension, the third party, because the port is also a place where things come from abroad to the country. There are companies, there are countries that will be affected. And just before we enter the studio, I read the statement, a short statement from the Troika.
Troika.
Yes, the US, Norway, and the UK.
Yes.
They're calling for opening the port because they say that this is going to create problems, this is going to block vital things from the people of the country, because this is a pipeline of the country, and they call for an immediate, opening of the port.
This road.
My reading is that this is not going to take a very long time, because the implications are quite serious, internally and internationally.
Internationally.
I expect that some deal will be reached somehow in the near future, because the government's spokesperson a couple of days back, he made a statement where he mentioned that they are getting into a critical stage where some of the key things are going to finish. The fuel, the floor, the medicine. You cannot continue leaving this serious problem and you behave as nothing is happening. So my reading is that something is going to happen. I have no details, I have no idea what will happen, but I don't think this will continue for a very long time.
Okay. Dr. Yasser Abid, okay. We have to add more to what you heard, Professor, about the Port Sudan. Now the blocking of this road from Port Sudan, as you know, it has some implications the lives of the people. But now Professor Manzoor saying that Troika got on board on the issue, although they say in their statement, although it is something internal, but still, which this still the involvement of Troika, which is America, United Kingdom, and Norway. They constitute a very important corner in the international organization. It is actually, to me, it is just the start of doing something. It is a start, because now it seems that the international community is focusing on Sudan. So what do you think of the blockage of this road by the East Bija tribes, headed by Tariq? And Tariq, by the way, said when he was asked, he said he is supported because the Arabiya channel, they had interview with Tariq. Lina Yaqub asked him why you are putting the blame on the civilian component, although the Juba Accord, Juba Agreement, with its 5 tracks, including the East track, it was signed by the military component. His answer was really weird. He said, yes, because they are protecting me. He said, because that I heard it. They're protecting.
It's true.
So I think that it's not that easy. That the problem of the East is now become so complex, but the effect, it will definitely backfire on the perpetrators of the blocking, because the blocking of the main line is something big. Can you tell us more about this issue of this lifeline blockage?
As you know, the problem of the east of Sudan is one of the historical also problems. And regarding a lot of things, marginalizations and whatever, and they have so problems of they didn't get their share of the developments and whatever, and from the wells, and that is controversial problems. We don't know. We can't say that the problem is in this side or on this side. The east is so big, 3 states, which are one of the biggest states in Sudan, and so in the east of Sudan, and the neighboring of also the very sensitive areas in that Red Sea and whatever. This is also one of the sensitive areas. We know that in Red Sea. And as Mr. Professor mentioned, also those Troika also, they have put their eyes on that, and they want to at least to talk about this issue as something is a big for the international community, but also let us put it as in the local as a local conflict. So the problem, as we know, is matter of power balancing. As you know, the tribe and whatever, and the groups in Sudan and the parties, every party wants to go there to where he can get the support. Maybe Tiriki mentioned that very clearly on that. Maybe the military side is supporting him because of his rights but the military groups is the one who in charge of Juba issue, the blame of the civilian also. They didn't go to the problems. They have to go to the problem and just discuss with this group.
But I tell you, I remind you of something which is important. Maybe you know it better than us all. The Ousted government, actually, they did the least in development of East. They did not pay attention to East. That's okay. But they concluded very good agreement with Eastern Fund, the Eastern Fund for Rehabilitation of the East or something from Kuwait, and amounted to about $2 billion. It amounted. This is finished. The Kuwait, they paid the money, but it did not appear on the ground. Nobody knows. They could have solved the problem of the East. I agree with you, the East is the least developed part of the Sudan. By the way, it's the least developed part of Sudan, not the north, not the west, not the south or the middle. It's the least developed, and people, they don't have hospital, they don't have school, they are in poverty actually. But they receive the fund, not the people on the ground. The leaders of those who were managing the Kuwaiti fund for the rehabilitation of the East. So you can tell us more about this, because it's something economic.
The East Fund is been raised by the Kuwait Fund and the Arab financial groups also.
Okay.
There is a Saudi Fund, and there is Abu Dhabi Fund, and there is maybe around 7. They contribute to
this fund.
Build this fund. Yes, that the East Fund is.
And they did contribute.
Yes, they contribute actually for this or another for different projects. But as we know, the projects, it is not seen as we have seen. It did not be seen in the ground there. Nobody saw those developments.
Okay, let me take the question to make it easy for you. Do you think that as an economist that a lump sum of money, about $2 billion, and you know the problem of the East, do you think this is something sizable? It could have changed the East if it was well distributed or well allocated?
According to me, it is when it's been paid.
It's a big money.
It is not 2 billion exactly, but what is being paid is too much money. It's a lot of money. Exactly, is more than 600 millions is being paid just cash from these groups, just to make.
But not the whole 2
But the problem with this Arab financial institution, they don't pay you for open developments. So they have specifically projects the projects which is being connected with the communities, which connected with like water, like infrastructure, like whatever, or that type of projects. But they didn't send, they didn't make you, so for example, the factories or whatever.
No factory,
So
develop
especially for
infrastructure.
infrastructure, and as we know that the East has so much problem in infrastructure, like water, like electricity, like whatever, like agriculture problem, like drinking water problems, like so those
Still, but still, even after this
it's still there.
the problem is there.
But the money is not all goes to the development. Unfortunately, this is why still the East didn't get its share.
Is there any element of corruption?
During the
Element of corruption?
maybe absolutely there is something.
Because
like
yes,
there is something.
because
like
we heard of
it's very clear.
from
It is
the
very
committee.
clear. It is very clear, and because as we know that even the East Fund, it is being formed from the East people, even themselves, even the experts and whatever, and all the staffs from there, all from the East. In fact, they didn't make what they have to do on that fund, and actually this money is reflected as now as a loans, became just as a debt. Became debt now to Sudan. In our bag of Sudan, still the money is being paid and not being used in the developments, and they're not being used whatever. It became now part of the debt to the economy of Sudan.
Okay, so you think the money is did not reach the 2 billion, but it is not well, and it was not well distributed according to the, let us say, infrastructure. Still there is a shortage, and there is a poverty, the community, schools, hospitals.
It's true.
Education, all that.
And the health also problems is still there, and we didn't feel
water, clean water, no clean water.
It is very behind on the development, still on development, and the millennium issue. The East is behind the whole state in Sudan. That's a problem also in health, in education, in water problems, in poverty and whatever. Still in the same position.
Okay, Professor. Maybe we are almost on the final minutes of the program. About this issue also in your domain as specialized in peace negotiations and in peace in general, the government, the delegation of the government which met with Tirik did not solve or did not do enough to resolve the whole problem. It's only reached the issue of opening for the export of oil from the south, because it's an international commitment. But for the inflow, the incoming fuel, everything is still blocked. So the delegation, the government delegation, which has headed by the military Kabashi, who was Lieutenant General Kabashi, it did not do enough. Whatever they came back as if they did, but they did not do enough.
Let us not forget the fact that while the delegation was at the east to talk with Tirik and his people, the attempted coup took place. And I think some reports say that was why the delegation
aborted.
Yes, didn't stay for a long time. They came at the same day, you know. They went in the morning and then they came the same day at the evening. Probably that was the reason. Maybe there were other reasons that are behind their, short visit. But in all cases, I think, and for the long-term perspective and solution, there needs to be a conference for all those in the East.
Not only Tirik.
No. And I, remember 2 weeks ago in this place, I said that I don't understand why such a conference is not taking place. Because Tirik does not represent everyone in the East. We have to be very frank.
Yes, okay.
Some people would say that if you cancel the Eastern track, there would be a civil war in the East. Because there are people who also support the track.
Supporting the track,
of course. So this is something that has to be taken seriously. If people are serious about solving the problem, they should bring everybody around the table.
Yeah.
That is the only way out.
They have to call for a
of course
inclusive
yes
meeting without saying that let us say opening reopening of the track.
Why not?
Because if you
Why
say
not?
canceling the track,
That's a problem.
but
Reopen the whole thing.
reopen the whole thing, and you can include or add or amend
Absolutely.
if people they agree to that.
That's right.
So this is the only way out.
I
But
think
in the
that's-
meantime, do you think that this will, you said this will not take long, the blockage of the
No, I don't expect
Because
this,
of the
because
involvement of-
it will end up in the disaster.
if it goes like this?
Yeah.
Do you agree with Dr. Saibet?
I
If
agree,
it
I agree
continues,
if it is good like that, because closing of the port is something very dangerous for the
Very
countries.
serious.
Very serious and more than serious. We have to be very careful on that. We have to go in a talk. We have to go in a discussion so we can solve the problem immediately without any side
any
effects.
hesitation. Okay, thank you very much, dear gentlemen, for being with me in this hour. Dr. Professor Manzoor Abdullah Manzoor, University of Khartoum, Dean Faculty of Scientific Research, and our friend Dr. Yasser Abed, doctor in economy and economist, and he works in different parts of the African countries. We were happy we covered about almost the issue, that both events. Thank you, dear viewers, for being with us in the last hour or so with the two gentlemen. Hope to see you next week in a different issue in Dialogue Horizon. Thank you and bye.